Hello everyone, and welcome back to our segment on Black history. Today we have a very unique family with us, and they're going to share with us their story of how Black history has affected their lives through their experience of adoption.
Hi, I'm Dave Barkholtz, and this is my wife Donna, and this is little Davy, and this is Dalen, and over to my right next to Michelle is Danae.
Okay. All right, and can you share with us how, well, obviously we see your family is very unique. So how did you get to that point?
Well, basically when we decided to adopt, it was simply a God thing, and it's really as simple as that. God placed it on our hearts that we should adopt, and then God first brought Dalen to us, and then 6 years later he brought little Davy. And really our approach to raising these girls are the same as our older kids,
Right.
Because we have an older son who's 26 as well. And that is, we've raised them to be adult Christians.
Right.
And we've tried to imbue them with the love of God, to spread the word, to get them familiar with Dalen with the Bible, and Davy is already starting in that process. And so that is the same. We want them to be adult Christians, and we want them to take the gospel out to the world.
Right.
Now the journey is been quite a different thing.
Right.
Obviously, we live in an area that is 99.9% white in a suburb.
Right.
And these guys are the diversity in our community.
Right.
And so that required us to find people who were like them. We want to see positive Christian role models like them. And as it turned out, God took us to Oakwood Church, where, and first before that, Oakwood Academy, where we immediately walked in, we saw that this was like a United Nations of cultures and different people with from different walks of life, and that really fit perfectly with what we were looking for. And now we're involved in the church, and Dalen is in Adventurers. And so that's really worked out well.
Now, if I have just one question. Now, typically when most Caucasians are thinking of adopting, they would adopt a Caucasian child or children. But what made you guys decide to adopt African American children? Or was it just something you
felt? It was placed in my heart. Honestly, we fought it off for about 3 years because our biological children were growing. Danae was 13. And we fought it off for 13, but we watched God's hand place us in settings where out of 200 people, we were the only Caucasians.
Right.
We'd go to a Tiger game and we'd be in a section where we were the only.
Right.
And I felt the nudging of sorts for about 3 years that it would be African American. And we went for a ride one day, and Dave was driving, and he said, you know, we did a pros and cons, let's adopt. And he's driving, he goes, you know, I just really feel like the Lord's telling us to adopt African American. And I'm like, me too. So God was working our heart for a good three years.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so, what challenges have you faced since you've adopted these two beautiful girls?
The initial challenge was hair, believe it or not. We've become quite familiar with how the whole beauty shop is a part of the African American culture.
Right.
And then, Donna, you can.
Well, he says we, but he has taken the girls to the salon a couple times.
Wow.
But you know, I've learned that their hair is definitely a prideful thing, and it means something to them, and it's beautiful hair. And I've learned how to do it myself, but
wonderful.
You know, we know it's a treat to go to the salon.
Right.
So.
Right. I'm still trying to figure out how to work with mine, so that's good. Are there any other challenges besides, you know, trying to get the girls to look nice with their hair?
Well, as a mother, parenting Caucasian children, you know, there's just a certain first in line type thing, and I can go to the same scenario and do the same things, and it's not always, to be honest with you, it's not always fair. Right. And for us, you know, I was in my 40s when we got Dalen, and we weren't racist. We were always around other cultures. I mean, we've traveled, we do missions. I was raised in a primarily African-American neighborhood. I lived in Okinawa. Right. So I didn't know that some of the change has not been made. But, you know, we work on it, and we look at life in a different filter than Caucasian parenting.
Yeah, we've definitely learned to walk in their shoes and to see how they're treated. I'll give you an example. I mean, we kind of expect some of that in the world, but where we've really been hurt is when family members, when racism or just pure ignorance has raised its ugly head in our church family. We went to a church prior to coming to Oakwood, and there were two incidences that kind of really stood out in our mind. A woman came up, and she has a newborn and whatnot, and Davy, I mean, is just, you know, is a bright light, and she asked any learning delays, like, why are you asking that? It just made no sense. And there was this sort of assumption because she was African American and she was adopted that she had some kind of learning disability. She must, right? Right. And there was another incident before that where the pastor of this church, believe it or not, a Christian church, non-denominational, as we were kind of starting on our own Christian journey, he had adopted a white child, a white pastor, and when we indicated that we were adopting an African American, believe it or not, he said, well, that's going to be a lot less expensive to adopt an African American than a white child.
Wow.
And
what does that mean?
It's just pure, what I guess what he was saying is that, you know, the white kids are desirable and the African American kids are less desirable, so it's going to cost you less. And that was hugely painful for us when that happened. Right. And so that's why Oakwood has been really such a great thing for us, is because we know we're all unified in Christ, and that color doesn't make any difference at all here.
Exactly, exactly. So, Danae, now you're over here, and I'm sure you've had your own experience being a sibling, an older sibling to these two girls. How has that affected you just growing up?
Well, initially, obviously, growing up in a primarily Caucasian household, I was always exposed to different cultures, and I surrounded myself around different cultures, but like starting when we first adopted Dalen, and secondly Davy, like the people that you surround yourself with, you have to make sure they're not going to negatively bring you down or judge your family. Right. And I've just kind of had to dismiss some people from, I guess, my group of friends because they weren't positive about our family situation and our uniqueness.
Right. Are there any specific examples where you remember having a strong reaction to something that happened?
I guess one situation that I guess first made me realize that our world really, like, there are some people that are trying to still not let the world move forward, was we were up north on vacation, and it was my mother and I and Dalen, and we were going to get a table to eat lunch. We were at the beach all day, and we waited like at least an hour to be seated, and everyone that came after us was seated, and we sat down. They put us in the corner, and they didn't give us anything to drink or eat. No one waited on us for like 45 minutes.
Wow.
On top of our hour wait. So my mom and I were talking, we're like, what are we gonna do? And we just decided to leave, and
right.
yeah, it just, I guess that at that moment, like, it made me realize that it's not, I guess, a perfect world. Like, we still have more to do to make things equal.
Right.
And
right. So it's kind of like a mentality change that really the world needs to come along with. But that's something we're praying for, right?
You know, those are some of the not so lovely sides of racism as it pertains to our family. But what we have been able to do, even with all that negativity that comes our way, we're making a change inch by inch, because like, we'll have Caucasian people come up and feel our daughter's hair. Now, I know that's the first time they've ever felt African American hair.
Right.
So we are affecting circles that we, you know, maybe it's negative for us, but our job is to protect the girls from that negativity.
Right.
And we do that. You know, that's our job. But we also can't hide them from it. And, you know, they need to know what the world's like, and they need to be prepared for some of the negativity. But our job is to love them and make them secure African American women that love white people, black people, Asian, all people. And so I think that we're doing it. It's probably harder on us right now, but if we take the punches, we're going to be able to have successful young women.
Right. So I know that you guys have an older son. Were there any unique experiences that he faced after you guys adopted the two girls?
Yeah, he was a little bit older. He was 16 when we got Dalen, so he was in that 16-year boy thing trying to find out who he was. But we thought there would be a struggle, but Derek has bonded extremely well with the girls. Derek does a lot of work in Detroit for the community. He's had some dating issues where girls have said things like, why? And, you know, he just dismisses them. He's, you know, going to date a different girl. But he loves his sisters. So.
Wonderful. Is there any last thoughts you guys would like to share with those watching about Black history, about adoption, about anything really? What your last thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to. The Black history is so important for the girls, because as I traveled through the school systems with my biological children that were Caucasian, the history books were filled with, you know, slaves and slavery and the release and all of that. And there's very few champions in the public school books for Black history. So that is a change from us, as we now see that. So it's very important. And I think that, you know, the things that we discussed earlier about the racism we get, my question is, are we getting the racism that all African American people get, or some, or is it the change of our unique family that we are experiencing the African American culture of 40 years ago?
Right, right.
And you know, we get way more positive comments, and it's almost, honestly, it's almost embarrassing where somebody will come up and say, you know, bless you for adopting, and or white or black. And it takes me aback, because mainly because these girls have been the blessing for us. I mean, we're just parents that make all kinds of mistakes and screw them up every which way, like all parents do. But they've been a huge blessing. They've introduced us to so many, they've enriched our lives. Not only with their enthusiasm and their love, but just because we've wanted to introduce them to Black culture and other cultures, and we've made a focus, a point of doing that. It has really enriched our lives in so many ways and taken us way beyond what we thought we would have experienced here.
Danae?
I think my final thoughts would be that I wish that when people look at our family, they don't see a negative difference. They see a step for change. And I guess my only wish is that more people would look beyond the difference in the color in our family and just see us as one unit that loves God and wants to go out and serve and spread His word. So.
Amen. And I pray that this segment is enriching as well to those watching, that it would be a lesson and educating and fulfilling to us to see that we are moving somewhere, even if it's step by step. So thank you. This is Michelle Odinma with Black History.